I think one thing that the Fallout franchise does extremely well, maybe better than any other open world RPG, is environmental storytelling. The ability to tell a story or provide the player with information without explicitly telling them. Whether it be through notes and terminals, or simply how objects within the world are placed, the developers of Fallout are one of the best at adding flavor to the desolate wasteland. And nowhere is this more apparent than through their use of unmarked locations. Unlike many notable locations in Fallout, these areas cannot be tracked on the map or HUD. Often secretive or secluded areas, unmarked locations typically provide some sort of interesting tale that many may miss. We've covered 5 unmarked locations in Fallout 4 before, but here are another 5. Welcome to 5 more remarkable unmarked locations in Fallout 4. The Cat Cabin. If the sole survivor makes a trek east from Walden's Pond, they may come across a merchant's shack. But this isn't any ordinary merchant. It would appear that this vendor actually doubles as a crazy cat owner. And maybe farmer. Nestled in the wilderness, this cozy cabin serves as a haven for numerous cats, adorned with several cat paintings that indicate the owner's affection for these furry friends. However, the seemingly idyllic scene takes a darker turn upon closer inspection. Trading with the merchant reveals an unsettling fact. They deal in cat meat. Surrounding graves near the cabin might indicate that the vendor had to put down some of his furry pals in order to feed themselves or make a quick cap. An alternative theory is that the owner of the cat cabin actually operates a cat farm. Here, cats are bred, nurtured, and raised, only to be harvested for survival and livelihood. Though I suppose that in a world that is doing its best to kill you, being a cat farmer isn't really near the top of the evilest jobs ever list. Considering the harsh conditions of the wasteland, the cats at the cabin do seem to live a better life than they would if they were in the wild, right? I'd imagine it being quite difficult for a cat to survive the wastes on their own. So whether this lone vendor is a cat farmer or simply a cat fanatic benefiting from the unfortunate demise of one of his friends, the truth behind the cat cabin will forever remain a mystery. Carhenge. If one travels south of Walden Pond, yeah, a lot of cool places around Walden Pond, they may come across a strange sight. Old and rusted cars jutting out from the ground, their positions almost perpendicular to the surface. Some vehicles are artfully stacked upon one another, creating an odd and intriguing structure. It's all quite strange. This is Carhenge. You know, like the famous Stonehenge, but with a vehicular twist. And while it's not clear who built the real Stonehenge in England, as one approaches Carhenge in the Commonwealth, it becomes quite evident. Approaching this automotive monument reveals a formidable supermutant behemoth, seemingly its self-appointed guardian. Evident by its aggression, our big mutant friend doesn't like people who get too close to his little Carhenge. What adds an extra layer of intrigue to Carhenge is its real-world counterpart in Nebraska, outside of the Fallout universe. Conceived in 1987 by Jim Reinders, Carhenge replicates the iconic Stonehenge using 39 vintage American automobiles. Each vehicle was spray-painted gray to mimic the appearance of the ancient stone circle, creating a unique and quirky homage in the heart of the American Midwest. Furthermore, 3 years after the release of Fallout 4, one could find another Carhenge in Fallout 76's Appalachian wasteland. Found inside this Carhenge is no behemoth, however, but rather a leather throne. Unfortunately, there's not much else to this location, outside of being a spawn point for a random encounter, as you can see. No car kingdom ruler or medieval car faction. Just some rusted cars stacked on each other, and a seat dab smack in the middle of them. So whether it be in the Commonwealth or Appalachia, There's something kinda neat and mysterious about a bunch of old rusty cars posed in a circle. I mean, come on, cars aren't supposed to do that. The Prost Bar. Situated in the Back Bay, Boston district, players can find the hidden gem that is the Prost Bar. This establishment, while unmarked on the in-game map, has a unique charm to it and is home to a pretty sizable Easter egg. Upon entering the bar, the player is met with an eerily abandoned space. Dimly lit with floors littered by a layer of dust and debris, the bar tells a silent tale of a sudden and tragic end, the many scattered skeletons being the only ones who truly know what happened. What makes the Prost Bar particularly interesting is its subtle homage to the popular television show Cheers. Having aired from 1982 to 1993 and being set in Boston, the layout and design of the bar unmistakably resembles the iconic bar from the show. First, the word Prost means cheers in German. It's pretty on the nose. Then there are a bunch of baseball posters hanging up around the area, referring to the owner of the bar, Sam Malone, and is passed as a former relief pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. Hanging out at one of the corners of the bar are two skeletons, one dressed in a postman's uniform. This is Cliff Clavin, a postal worker, and his friend Norm Peterson. At another corner is a skeleton in tattered formal attire. This could be Dr. Fraser Crane, who would later get his own spin-off show, Frasier. And behind the bar are two skeletons holding hands. This is likely Sam Malone, the bar owner, and his on-off romantic interest, Diane Chambers. So while the Prost Bar may not be too notable in terms of loot, it does contain a pretty sizable Easter egg to a beloved 80s sitcom that was set in Boston. It's one of those things that add to the already flavorful world of Fallout. The Hidden Diner. This next location is pretty remarkable just because it's a little hard to get there. And I'm not talking about how it's a long trek from any fast travel spot, as it's actually right next to Diamond City. It's hard to get there because it requires a wee bit of parkour. So we all know that Fallout 4 has plenty of player housing, whether it be in the form of building your own home through the settlement system, or one of the many other homes like Home Plate, your room in Vault 81, or your quarters aboard the Prydwen. The Commonwealth has plenty of places to call your own. Now, the Commonwealth also has some places that are up for grabs by anyone. It's a free-for-all. These locations have unowned beds, cost nothing, and the key part, they will not reset. Places like Kellogg's Home, Vault 111, the Combat Zone, or the Railroad Headquarters. These locations offer safety, storage, and a well-rested bonus for free. But tucked away atop the walls of Diamond City is another area that the sole survivor can call home. This is the Hidden Diner. After doing quite a bit of parkour and jumping, one will end up in what appears to be an abandoned diner. The place is a mess, blood spatters are on the floor, and it is probably due for a power wash. But it's empty, unowned, and yours for the taking. It's got a power armor station that you can use to store things, and has an unowned bed for you to sleep in and get that well-rested bonus. It's a pretty neat secret that I don't think many people know about. Unfortunately, because it's so hard to get to, it's not really that practical for everyday use. It's a lot easier to just fast travel to a settlement. Still, if you ever want your own secret nook on the walls of Diamond City, the Hidden Diner is there, waiting for you. The Rocket Shack. I've got a double round of bonus locations for you. Yeah, this isn't actually 5 more unmarked locations, it's more like 7. Oops. Anyway, if we travel northeast of Relay Tower 0BB915, we can find an out-of-place metal shack posted up on a cliff. The ramp up leads to a blue door, and inside, a strange sight can be seen. Within the shack is a shelf with several oxygen tanks resting on it. Without context, it's a pretty weird thing to find. With context, it's still quite weird. Next to the shelf is what appears to be a makeshift oxygen tank launcher using some wood and cinder blocks. From here, all you have to do is ignite the back end of the tank and watch it fly before exploding. If you can get it to work, that is. These tanks can sometimes be finicky. Now, if one takes a moment of rest from the mindless havoc and fun this shed can be, a strange question starts to form. Who built this thing? Based on its janky construction, I'd wager it was done post-war, but why? No shot it was actually used for defense. With how unreliable the oxygen tank launcher is, surely a misfire would take the whole shed down, right? So was it just for fun? Did someone find a surplus of these tanks just lying around and had this mighty idea on how best to use them? Is it some fanatic's way of fighting back against the wasteland's threat? Is it a fireworks show? Who knows? But as it is abandoned with nothing to suggest that the owner will be back anytime soon, surely they won't miss it if I launched just a few of the tanks, right? The Shanty Store. If one travels southeast of the coastal cottage, they may start to see a neon sign in the distance. Welcome to the Shanty Store. Owned and operated by a man named Leonard Moore and his trusty companion, a Jangles the Moon monkey plushie, the Shanty Store is one enterprising business in the Commonwealth. Selling generic goods, scrap, and ammo, Leonard makes a modest living from his business, as evident by his rather plain lifestyle. He lives in the back of his store with just a bed and a cooking stove. He does some meager farming, evident by the melons, gourds, and tractor, and has appeared to set up his own water supply with a water pump. It honestly doesn't seem like a bad life. Of course, however, we would never truly know what's going on with Leonard's life, as he prefers to keep the conversations strictly business-related, not interested in chat, rumors, or gossip. You gotta respect the grind. Union's Hope Cathedral. Found dab smack in the middle of Cambridge, Union's Hope Cathedral was an old pre-war church that is hard to miss. The building is quite large, with it and its graveyard taking up much of the neighborhood. Post-war, building is in relatively good shape. Its towers stand tall amongst the ruins of the wasteland. Its red doors offer a solemn welcome. Its graveyard is the home to not only those buried there, but also to the roaming feral ghouls. Despite the property being in good shape, the passing of time has not been kind to its interior. Abandoned and left to rot, piles of rubble, grime, and broken pews litter the room. The once silent halls are now interrupted with the gurgling moans of nearby feral ghouls. And at the end of the church, another ghoul calls for help. Upon entering the red doors of Union's Hope, one will find a ghoul named Father Gabe fighting for his life against some feral ghouls, calling for help. Despite coming to the aid of the father of this holy institution, rather than thanks, Father Gabe turns aggressive towards his savior, perhaps driven mad by isolation. Father Gabe actually serves as a reference to the character of the same name from the Walking Dead franchise. In The Walking Dead, Father Gabe survived the zombie apocalypse by hiding out in his church, locking its doors, and preventing other members of his congregation from finding solace within, leading to their deaths. He struggles with his actions and faith throughout the comics and show. Beyond the reference, it would seem that Fallout's Father Gabe was also living in his church. A sleeping bag and some water can be found next to the main hall's altar. Now, the most peculiar part about Gabe is that it's known that feral ghouls don't attack normal ghouls, at least not for no reason. For example, we see this happen firsthand in Fallout 3 when we wear the ghoul mask. But upon entering the church, Gabe is locked in combat with some feral ghouls. Why is that? Did he make some aggressive or hostile threat to the ghouls, provoking an attack? My theory is that this is how Gabe survives the wastes. The relatively good standing of the church lures unsuspecting scavengers and wastelanders in. Gabe then provokes the ghouls to start attacking him and yells for help. The wastelanders help, but get weakened in the process, and then Gabe finishes them off and loots them. Is it a bit of a far-fetched theory? Maybe, but it would explain why the feral ghouls are attacking Gabe, and why he immediately turns hostile towards you even if you help him fend off the ghouls. Regardless of Gabe's intentions and backstory, Union's Hope Cathedral is home to a pretty unique encounter and reference. And that wraps up some more remarkable unmarked locations in Fallout 4. From Easter eggs to a bunch of stacked cars, the Commonwealth is home to quite a few hidden gems. If you can think of any more, let me know. But that's all from me today, folks. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
Best scrap in the Commonwealth, right here.
Hear anything lately?
Not really.